When the two were shocked, Charlie looked at Watanabe with a smile on his face, and said with a slight smile, "Come on, Mr. Watanabe, stretch out your hand, and I will signal your pulse." Watanabe was nourished by the warmth in his body. He was immersed in it. Hearing Charlie's words, he nodded hurriedly and said, "There is Mr. Wade." After that, he stretched out his hand immediately. Charlie put his fingers on Watanabe's shin meridian, and a touch of aura penetrated into his meridian. These few auras can already guarantee that he can continue to produce essence in the future, and then enable him to rejuvenate the male glory. Watanabe couldn't help thinking of his beloved wife in his mind at this time. Thinking of the two gentle scenes, he felt a little change in his body. This bit of change immediately evolved into a strong impulse, which made him overjoyed. This is effective so soon? Watanabe was shaking with excitement. In order to ensure that the impulse was not fleeting, he hesitated for about 2 minutes, motionless, without saying a word, with all his attention, feeling his impulse. In these 2 minutes, instead of disappearing, his impulse has grown stronger. At this moment, Watanabe's excitement burst into tears. He exclaimed from the bottom of his heart, "I have been looking forward to it for so many years, and I have been waiting for this day in my dreams, and today is finally realized." At this moment, he looked at Charlie and cried, "Wade, Mr. Wade, you are the living God." Charlie smiled lightly and asked him, "Mr. Watanabe, just ask you for 10% more shares for this curative effect. Is that too much?" Watanabe stood up and blurted out, "Not too much. Not too much. You are my second-born parents." At the side, Takehiko, seeing Watanabe's pants put up a bag, hurriedly waved at him. "Oh, sit down, sit down. How well are you?" Watanabe looked down, embarrassed and excited at the same time. "Brother Ito, this is the symbol of male power. You don't know, how long have I longed for this power again." Takehiko was stunned suddenly. At this moment, he suddenly understood Watanabe's excitement. At this moment, he thought of his legs. "Although it didn't take long for me to lose my legs, my desire to stand up again, and to have my legs again, was beyond everything. If one day, I can grow legs and regain the state of a healthy person, then I am afraid that I will be 10 times or even 100 times more excited than Watanabe." He said these words in his heart. Thinking of this, he sighed in his heart again. "Hey, in my life, I am afraid that it is impossible to have legs again. In the future, I still don't know that I will face decades of incomplete life. At this moment, I am suddenly envious of Watanabe. He has also experienced several years of crippled life, but he was healed by Mr. Wade. What about me? In this world, I have never heard of a severed limb that can grow." After sighing for a while, he finally realized that Charlie was not actually black. He made up for Watanabe's imperfect life, but only received his 2 or 3 billion worth of shares. For ordinary people, 2 or 3 billion is indeed a sky-high price, but for Watanabe, it is only 1%, or 2% of all his assets. Let any person who loses his male prowess spend 1% or 2% of his total assets to regain the coveted ability. I believe that no man in the world will refuse. Watanabe was also very excited at this time, and blurted out, "Mr. Wade, don't know how long I can maintain this ability." Charlie smiled slightly. "It must be enough to maintain for 20 years. By that time, you are nearly 70 years old, and you can be considered old and healthy. If you maintain yourself properly, it may not be impossible to maintain it to your 70s. Watanabe's face flushed with excitement, his fists clenched, and his voice was a little trembling and said, 20 years? I dare not even dream of this. It's great, really great." Takehiko on the side said, "Shinwa, since Mr. Wade has helped you make up for your shortcomings, let Nanako bring Miss Song back. You can sign the contract first." Yes. Watanabe said without hesitation, "Sign. Must sign." Takehiko Ito nodded, took out his cell phone, called Nanako, and said, "Nanako, you and Miss Song will come back. We have to have dinner." "Okay, father." Not long after, Nanako walked back with Warnya. At this time, Warnya was still holding a small khaki milk dog in her arms. The puppy was crawling around in her arms at this time, appearing to be very intimate with her. Nanako Ito smiled and said, Xiaoyu and Sister Warnya are very fond of each other, and have been stuck to each other, so Sister Warnya wants to take it back to Oru's Hill. Warnya caressed the little milk dog in her arms lovingly and said to Charlie, Master, Xiaoyu is a little girl, she seems to like me very much, and I like her very much, so I want to take her back to China. Don't know if it's inconvenient, Charlie smiled and said, What's inconvenient? We two big living people can smuggle back, not to mention a little milk dog. The space on the boat is very large, I am afraid that 100 dogs can be held. Takehiko also nodded again and said with a smile, The boat I prepared for the two is indeed very large, and dozens of people are not even enough. Warnya was overjoyed, and smiled softly. Then I will take Xiaoyu back, Nanako Ito hurriedly said, Sister Warnya, I will ask someone to prepare some dog food for you. At night, you and Master can take it directly on the boat. Warnya nodded and thanked. Thank you so much, Nanako. Nanako Ito blinked and smiled. Sister Warnya, don't be so polite. Warnya said, Xiaoyu is leaving with me, would you miss it? Nanako quietly glanced at Charlie's face, and said with a smile, If I want to see it, I will come to Oru's Hill, and I can also see my sister and Master. In fact, it was Charlie that Nanako wanted to see most. However, she knew very well in her heart that Charlie was a married man after all, and he traveled all the way to see what he said. Therefore, when Warnya takes the puppy to Oru's Hill, she can at least borrow the reason to see Charlie in Oru's Hill. Although this rhetoric is more or less trivial, at least it can be regarded as not inappropriate. Warnya was also aware of it at this time, and she couldn't help sighing. Nanako, such a tender little girl, was completely captured by Master. I really don't know how Master will pay these peach blossom debts in the future. At this moment, she felt a little bit of distress for Nanako, and also a little distressed for herself. Although the two had just met for a while, deep in her heart, she felt a real pity for the same illness.